The Westfield Foundation's annual AI and Ethics Gala was more spectacle than sincerity. The rich gathered in the Crystal Ballroom to toast to innovations they barely understood, while classical music floated from an AI-composed string quartet. Cameras flashed, drone lights danced overhead, and beneath it all stood Amira Westfield, 34, tech heiress and reluctant queen of this glittering world. But Amira felt like a shadow of herself. Her late father's legacy had built the empire she now inherited, Westfield Dynamics, and with it came change she couldn't name, only feel. Expectations, appearances, calculated smiles. She wandered toward the back hallway, drawn by the stillness, where silver trays clinked and staff rushed to serve unnoticed. That's when she saw him. A tall, lean man, wearing a hotel janitor's uniform, skin the color of smooth bronze, cheekbones sharp. His presence, calm, even regal, despite the mop in his hand. Their eyes locked, just for a second. He nodded politely, then turned back to his work. Something in her refused to walk away. "What's your name?" she asked gently. He looked up. His voice was low, deliberate. "Femi. Femi Thomas. You don't sound like you're from New York." "I'm not." Amira's curiosity sparked. "And yet, you're working the biggest gala of the year." He offered the faintest smile. "It pays better to watch the elite than to be one." The blunt honesty struck her. She smiled. "Well, I'm one of the elite. Should I be offended?" "No, ma'am," he said. "I should be." And just like that, he disappeared into the kitchen. But Amira couldn't forget him. 2 weeks passed. Yet she found herself still thinking about him. The janitor who didn't act like a janitor. The man who seemed to carry dignity in silence. She volunteered on Saturdays at a small immigration legal clinic in the Bronx. Her one place of realness. She wore no makeup, no heels, no cameras. That's when she saw him again. Femi, reading documents to a frightened El Salvadoran boy. In perfect Spanish. Guiding him gently through asylum rules. He wasn't just volunteering, he was leading. After the boy left, she approached. "You again," she said with a smile. He blinked. "And you? You're not just a janitor. And you're not just an heiress." They had coffee at a noisy street corner cafe. She asked, he answered. Yes, he came to the US 5 years ago on a visiting visa after his engineering startup collapsed in Nigeria. Yes, he overstayed. Yes, he worked every brutal job to send money home. Yes, he once paid a woman to marry him, but she scammed him, then threatened to call immigration if he spoke. "Do you ever think of going back?" she asked. "Every day," he said. "But then I think of my parents, my sisters. They count on me." She looked at his hands. Calloused, tired, beautiful. "You deserve more." "Deserve," he said, "is a luxury." That night, Amira dreamed of him. Not in suits or ballrooms, but in her kitchen, smiling, cooking. Real, tender. Their connection unfolded quietly, secretly, out of sight of the elite world Amira belonged to. He met her in Harlem cafes, subway platforms, and borrowed rooftops. He told no one. She didn't care. It felt like the only thing in her life that was truly hers. One night, on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum, just the two of them with takeout and jazz from a passing saxophonist, Amira leaned in and kissed him. It was slow, intentional, electric. Femi didn't pull away, but he didn't deepen it either. He whispered, "This can't be real." She stared at him. "But it is." He paused. "I'm undocumented, Amira. If anyone finds out, I could lose everything." "You've already lost enough," she said. "Let me be something you don't have to run from." They began to steal time, and time began to steal their fear. They made love for the first time in a narrow apartment with barely enough space for the bed. But there was nothing small about how they held each other. "You're too soft for this world," he whispered. "I'm only soft with you," she whispered back, tracing the scar near his ribs. "Who did this?" "New Jersey," he said. "Furniture warehouse. I didn't move fast enough." She kissed the scar. Slowly, reverently, her body wrapped around his like home. And in that moment, two worlds that should never have touched melted into one. Grayson Hunt III didn't just come from money. He came from old money. The kind that owned cities, sat on boards, and made calls that shaped foreign policy. And Amira Westfield had once been his prize. Their engagement had ended quietly a year ago, Amira citing irreconcilable values. In truth, she couldn't stand the way he looked at poor people like bugs on glass, or how he tried to outshine her father's memory with every smug donation. But when Grayson saw a grainy paparazzi shot of her holding hands with a black janitor outside a Harlem cafe, he exploded. "You're not serious," he texted. "Tell me this is charity work gone too far." No reply. So he showed up uninvited at her penthouse, bourbon on his breath, rage in his voice. "You think your father would approve of you sleeping with an illegal alien? My father would have respected courage," she snapped. "Something you've never had." Grayson's jaw clenched. "You're throwing away your father's legacy for a charity case." "I'm building a new legacy," she said. "One with a soul." The next day, ICE received an anonymous tip. And it wouldn't be the last. One night, Femi and Amira shared a stolen moment in her glass-walled studio. Jazz playing low, pasta on the stove, the skyline glittering like an apology. He stood behind her at the sink, kissing the slope of her shoulder. She sighed, leaning into him. "You smell like cinnamon," he whispered. "And you," she breathed, "smell like everything I've ever needed." But outside, parked 2 blocks down, an unmarked black SUV sat idle. Inside, ICE agents, watching, waiting. The very next morning, as Femi walked to the bodega, 2 plainclothes officers approached. "Femi Thomas." He turned slowly. "Who's asking?" They grabbed his arms. No warrant, no warning. Just cold metal on his wrists and the words he feared most. "You've overstayed your visa. You're coming with us." Amira's phone rang 15 minutes later. "Federal Detention Center. We have your fiancé." She nearly dropped the phone. She rushed downtown, but no one would let her in. Hours passed. A lawyer friend finally got her 10 minutes through the glass. He looked thinner already, lips dry, but his eyes still soft. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "You're the only place I belong," she said, pressing her palm to the glass. Femi's detainment went viral after Amira gave a raw, unscripted interview on a live stream. "My partner is being detained for loving me. If this is America, then I want no part of it." Within hours, the clip exploded. Activists rallied. Hashtags surged. Celebrities retweeted. Legal teams volunteered. Under pressure, the judge ordered Femi released on humanitarian grounds, pending review. Amira met him outside the gate, wrapped him in her arms and whispered, "Come home." That night in Queens, in a creaky Airbnb with beige walls and flickering lights, they made love like it was the last night they'd ever have. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry. Her blouse tore open. His shirt tossed aside. Her legs wrapped around his waist as they moved against the wall. Every moan a war cry. Every gasp a vow. "I want to feel you," she said, nails raking down his back. "I want to keep you," he groaned, burying his face in her neck. They collapsed into bed, slick with sweat, hearts pounding. Silence. Breath. "Marry me," she whispered. Femi looked at her, eyes wide. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "Deadly." But the next day, the real war began. Grayson had seen the live stream. And he wasn't finished. He forged emails, spread disinformation, claimed Amira had paid Femi to fake their relationship for a green card. Conservative tabloids ran with it. Heiress caught in immigration scandal with African fraudster. Even her foundation board began asking questions. Her inheritance, her business, her reputation, all of it, suddenly fragile. The media firestorm was relentless. Blogs, tabloids, conservative news outlets, all echoing the same narrative. Tech heiress compromised by immigration scam. Amira's board members began withdrawing. Her CFO resigned. Investors froze funding. "This is damaging the Westfield legacy," her uncle Raymond told her in a stiff emergency meeting. "The legacy was built on exploitation of data and workers." Amira shot back. "Maybe it's time it burned." But what hurt most wasn't the board. It was her own mother. "Amira, you don't know what you're doing," her mother said, holding her wrist tightly. "This man, Femi, he's going to ruin you." "Then maybe I need to be ruined to be free," Amira said, eyes glinting. She stormed out. That night, Femi found her crying softly in the shower. She didn't hear him come in. He stepped behind her, letting the hot water run over both their bodies. He wrapped his arms around her waist. "They're coming after you because of me," he said. "No," she whispered. "They're coming after me because I finally chose love over profit." She turned to him, kissed him under the steam, slow, unhurried, grateful. They made love again, this time tender, quiet, like they were trying to memorize each other. The court date arrived on a rainy Thursday morning. Dozens of cameras gathered outside. Protesters waved banners. "Love is not illegal. Amira is all of US." Femi walked in, suited, shoulders squared. But inside he was shaking. Grayson was there too, sitting in the front row. His legal team argued that Femi was part of a fraudulent marriage scheme, exploiting Amira for a green card. They showed emails, receipts, a so-called confession from Femi's old roommate, conveniently found by Grayson's investigators. But then came the turning point. Amira took the stand. She didn't just defend Femi, she told their story. From the gala to the legal clinic. From fear to love. From IC to freedom. And then she turned to Grayson. "You tried to destroy him," she said in a cracking voice. "But what you really hated was that he made me feel human." Femi's lawyer, a brilliant Latina named Rosa, exposed the fake evidence, showed digital manipulation, traced the anonymous ICE tip back to a private investigator, paid through a shell account tied to Grayson. The judge's gavel cracked loud. All charges dismissed. Petition for permanent residency granted. Tears spilled down Femi's cheeks. Amira ran into his arms. Grayson slipped out the back. Loan. Weeks passed. The Westfield board offered to reinstate Amira if she issued a public apology and distanced herself from Femi. She declined. Instead, she announced the creation of a new tech human rights venture, co-founded with Femi, focused on tools for migrant defense and access to legal aid. She liquidated part of her trust fund to fund it. The media called it career suicide. She called it freedom. They moved into a modest brownstone in Brooklyn. No penthouse, no press, just them. They adopted a dog named Saad, took evening walks in the park, cooked Nigerian rice and almond biscotti. And every night they made love like a prayer. "You still dream of home?" Amira asked one evening, her head on his chest. "I'm already there," he said, kissing her forehead. But one twist remained. Femi received a letter from Nigeria, from a former university colleague. "An offer. We're rebuilding the startup. We want you to lead." Femi froze. "I owe my country. I always have. But now, I owe you too." Amira took his hand. "Maybe we don't have to choose. Maybe we can build both." The story didn't end with escape. It ended with purpose. The day of the wedding came like a whisper. There were no celebrity photographers, no exclusive magazine covers, just a quiet garden in Brooklyn, with late spring jasmine vines curling through a wooden archway. Amira wore a pale gold dress, not white. She said she wasn't here to be given away. She was here to choose. Femi wore a custom agbada made in Lagos, deep blue with golden embroidery down the chest. His sister sent it by mail. She couldn't get a visa, but she said, "Let my brother shine for all of us." There were only 20 guests, all chosen with care. Rosa the lawyer, a few immigrants from the legal clinic, Amira's old professor, one former janitor turned friend. And her mother? Yes, she came. Quietly. She didn't say much. But when she kissed Amira's cheek before the vows, tears rimmed her eyes. They didn't say, "I do." They said, "I see you. Believe you. I will build with you." Femi's hands shook slightly as he slid the ring onto her finger. "You are not a place I visit. You are the country I belong to." She smiled. "And you are not my escape. You are the truth I dared to want." They didn't honeymoon in Paris. They went to Abuja. Femi wanted to show her his past, not to apologize for it, but to reclaim it. They walked dusty roads near his childhood home, Itsuya in plastic chairs. He showed her the classroom where he first built a homemade drone from scrap metal and wishful thinking. And one evening, standing under a burning orange sky, he kissed her deeply and said, "I've been to the top of New York skyscrapers, but I've never felt as high as I do right now." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Let's build bridges between these two worlds," she whispered, "and make them both better." They did. Back in Brooklyn, their startup, now called Root Code, helped thousands of migrants access AI-powered legal tools. They created scholarships. They funded education in Nigeria. They partnered with grassroots networks. But more than all that, they held hands everywhere they went. Grocery stores, board meetings, church steps, in public, in front of everyone. Because their love was never a shame. It was a revolution. A journalist once asked Amira, years later, "Do you regret walking away from the Westfield fortune?" She looked over at Femi, who was teaching their 6-year-old daughter how to solder wires onto a circuit board. She laughed softly. "I didn't walk away from a fortune," she said. "I walked toward one." "But your love was illegal," the reporter pressed. Amira nodded. "Yes, but it was the only truth we had. Sometimes the truest love is the one the world tells you to fear." Their love was illegal, but it was the only truth they had. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more faceless tales of forbidden love and unstoppable truth. Thank you for viewing.